Let's get it. Welcome to the Dear Son Show. We have meaningful conversations about life through the lens of fatherhood. For fathers, those with fathers, and the fatherless, so nobody's left out. These are the conversations we want our sons to access as they grow through life, so no topics are off limits. I'm one of your hosts, D. Johns.
I'm your other host, Jay Black.
Jay Black, how you feeling, my brother?
I'm feeling good. It's a good day, good morning, good evening.
Indeed.
I'm ready, man.
Smile heavy?
Yeah.
Good energy?
Yeah, we try to stay there.
Yeah.
What about you? What you got going?
I'm good, man. I worked through some stuff all month.
Yes.
And said on another podcast, some of them been starting out kind of slow, kind of woe is me, but I feel good, man.
Yeah.
I feel good about how I'm ending this month. I feel good about May. And I feel good about what's happening with the network. So
that's exciting.
Like, share, and subscribe just on that alone. Off the top, man. Also, I want to get this out of the way early. Getting better at this. Dear Son, 20 Life Prompts that Facilitate Effective Parenting. My book, it is physical.
Yes, Lord.
And by the time you see this, it will be available for order. So I am proud to move past my me blocking this blessing.
In the way. Over humility.
Completely in the way.
Overly.
So yeah, I'm excited, man. But let's get into it, man. We whole lot of things been happening. We were having a little conversation before we got started about our age group and how mortality is kind of setting in.
It is.
And not to be a drab conversation, but like how are we tracking with what we're doing as we're seeing our peers not be here anymore? Trying to make sure I'm careful with my words. But,
yeah. I get it. It's tricky because it's you go through your early phases of your life of you're invincible.
Yeah.
You don't that don't apply to me. You see the commercials about Social Security or preparing for the, latter stages of life.
Yeah.
And you just for most that I'm affiliated with, it's not a thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's a good approach to it, but at the same time, you always seem to convince yourself, I have time. I'll get to it. I'll get to that.
Well, somebody told me, man, you can have 99 problems. That's not a Jay-Z reference, but you can have 99 problems and then have a health problem, and then you only have one problem.
Correct.
The other 99 don't matter.
Seem to go away, don't it?
Yeah, they don't matter when that health problem comes in. And going through last year put me in a space of realizing this ain't forever.
It's not.
Not that I didn't know that, but it's something about when you peeking over the edge and you kind of start thinking about, what life would be like. Have I done enough? Have I prepared my family? Yeah, so I had a guest on probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, Johnny Collins. And we were talking about his experience with his dad, and the conversation led to how his dad prepared him for life even as he was dying. His dad died early, and it kind of paralleled my dad's story. And it got me thinking about all the things I hadn't. We sit here and we talk about Dear Son and things that are important. Things are important now. Things are important in the future.
Yes.
But I hadn't really graded myself in terms of, if I'm really not here, how would it shake out?
Right.
And would that open my eyes to things that I need to fix with me, things I need to do some course correction on, and then being more intentional about the conversations around that. Because I've definitely danced around that. I may have said, I won't always be here, but I don't even think I've said that a lot. So there's one thing to give them a lesson, but there's another thing to have perspective of this lesson is important because I won't always be able to give it to you.
Right.
And me and my boss are having those kind of conversations now, but I don't even think I recall having a son. I'm not going to always, he probably said it, and I can't fault him because I was going through a period of just rejecting information from him.
Right.
But what was your experience growing up? Do you recall having that conversation with and your pops is still here, thank God.
Yes. But no. Honestly, no. Like my mom would throw it out, just as like you say, motivation. Keep pushing, go do this. Make sure you're in a self-sustaining mode so that you're not, because the worst thing you can do or see or even dream of, if you will, as a parent, is for you to no longer be here and everything comes to a screeching halt. And now the tragedy of it is that's on me.
Yeah.
Because I didn't prepare you to keep moving. I didn't properly set your mindset. You know, I don't have you in a mode of, though this bothers me and this isn't comfortable for me, there's things to do.
Yeah.
There's work to be done. There's life to live. I also heard a preacher speak about be mindful of how mournful you can be. You can be so mournful that you're worshiping a thing or a person or an entity, a spirit, if you will.
Yeah.
You know, if you go to a site, the plot, and you're down on your knees, giving your all and pouring into this soil,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Being mindful of that you're so heartbroken that you're unaware of what you're doing spiritually,
Yeah.
and what you're acknowledging and tying yourself to. But that's a whole entirely different conversation.
Yeah.
But just the reality, like even right now, dealing with my dad, he's in early stages of showing signs of possibly slipping into Alzheimer's. Not necessarily dementia, but his memory, his memory is fading him drastically as the days go by. So now, playing catch up, I'm asking questions that, based on like how we're talking about today on the episode, should have been discussing, and we'll unpack that some more in the episode.
Yeah.
But there's work to be done, man. But as far as you, like you say, it's you often hear parents talk about, oh, thank God I got daughters. And I used to take offense to that, but now that I'm actually in a certain stage of my life, that's a real thing, man. Because if you look around to families that they have a sense of continuity,
Yeah.
there's a strong daughter in the mix, and that's
Yeah.
unfortunate to an extent, but they kind of even lead their brothers like, hey, listen, this is what we got to do. This is what needs to be done. And then it's like, okay, you're right, let's go. So with you, obviously, there's two daughters ahead of the oldest son.
Correct.
So now, does that change your approach or your conversation? Is there a blanket conversation to all the children? Do I look at my first group like, hey, y'all are older, y'all are decision makers, catch these younger ones and bring them up along? What's your approach to that? What do you suggest on something like that?
Man, that's a big void right now. Being honest, as we normally are, and as you were talking about the strong daughter, two things came to mind. My mom is that for her family,
Mm-hmm.
and my dad's, because my dad is the oldest of four. He had three younger sisters.
Mm-hmm.
Two were like, one was relatively close to him. The child number three, I think she was four, maybe 6 or 7 years younger than him. And then his youngest daughter, I said it came out because his younger sister was more of a daughter approach because he was that much older. And when he lost his father, he had to jump into that role. Like he was figuring a lot of things out. But my mom has always been that person that is gotta have the details.
Yes.
What is this? What is this? How do you pay bills?
Right.
Like what are the logins and the password?
Yes.
Simple things like that. That as I'm saying it flippantly, I haven't had that with probably haven't updated my wife on that. We probably had a conversation in the past, but if something happened where even if I'm just incapacitated for some time,
yes,
let alone not be here ever, in the physical form ever again, like how do they continue? That's a big void in the conversation. So circling back to what you're actually asking about my three children, the three older children. So for reference of whoever came into the conversation on this episode, my children are 21, 19, 17, 11, and 10 today.
Yes.
17-year-old is the firstborn son. He'll be 18. So I'll have three adults in the house come July.
Right.
And we've never had a conversation about what it looks like or what I expect from them to carry on.
Right.
My assumption, as I often talk about Imani, the second child, she's just the more mature one. And her decision making suggests that whatever happens, like beneficiary number one, her, you've kind of figured things out. Not that the portion is any bigger.
Right.
But in terms of what they're demonstrating, and who knows how that was, like she's in college now.
Yes.
College can pivot some things.
Yes.
That is not my prayer for her.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But
right.
It can pivot some things, and it might hit for her older sister and younger brother later in life. But those are all assumptions. Like right now, they don't even know what our insurance situation is.
Right.
Like what that conversation would be like. And even watching, so we're coming up on a year anniversary of my godfather's passing, which I've never mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't even gone back inside of his house since he passed.
Wow.
His funeral was on Imani's graduation day.
Wow.
So I couldn't be there.
Yeah.
So it's a whole lot to that. But just watching him and my godmother were married approaching 60 years.
Wow.
Maybe 58, 59, because my parents are coming up on 52.
Mm-hmm.
And they were a few years before them.
Right.
And just full grown adult children, very adult wife, my godmother, navigating that space, what I could see from, brief conversation. I'm like, man, number one, I haven't prepared them like he prepared his family.
Yes.
He prepared his family,
yes.
right? And the dynamics of the family, and I don't think this is, I'm making a point with it. He was always allowed to lead the family, but she had the more lucrative career.
Right.
He was steady. Ship construction, I mentioned I worked in the shipyard. He was part of how I got in the shipyard. He did his 40 years or whatever, retired, but he stayed the course and did it right. So when he passed, they were prepared. And I'm like, I'm not.
Right.
I'm not. And it's not just having an insurance policy. It's like, okay, what do you do with this? What is the note on the house? Do you pay that off? Do you what is the strategy for whatever you're going to get whenever you get it? How long does it take? It's not the next day that you get it. Are you prepared for the 6 to 8 months that it might take for the insurance to pay out?
Absolutely.
Haven't had that conversation at all.
Sticking with preparation, right? That's key, because there's 3 stages that I'm actually physically witnessing in real time right now. A classmate at the time of this recording left us this week.
Wow.
It's one of those things. The best way I've heard it stated publicly is one of our classmates said, "We all just lost a best friend." Like she was that person. She literally, as you look at people around her and the interactions and the reactions, this was my best friend. This was my best friend. To be a million people's best friend says a lot about your character. So that's amazing. I have a very close relative. Her mom's bedridden right now, and 3 different doctors have said, like, it's checkout phase. Like, what are we doing?
It's a matter of time.
Right. So now the conversations are being brought to the attention of the group. Like, hey, listen, you need details. You need medical details. DNRs is not enough, because now you can have a conversation.
What is DNR? What is DNR?
Oh, I'm sorry. Do not resuscitate.
Okay.
Yeah, I apologize. Do not resuscitate, meaning if something goes bad, do you want them to revive?
Yeah.
Everything down to defibrillators, down to feeding tubes, down to it's one thing to hear that, but in the emotional setting of what it is, it's now she say, listen, I'll tell you this. You want to have these conversations far prior, while everybody's in their right mind. Ask all these questions and put them in writing. So now when you're in the emotional state of dealing with this, you slide the doctor a packet and you kind of walk away.
Yeah.
Because there are some things in that packet that in sound mind and body you're on board with. But in the moment, the emotions may not let you make that same decision. And that's this person's wish, desire, and they standing on 10 toes of it absolutely has to be this way. I don't want it any other way under any circumstance. But then you, in the moment, siblings, how can you do that? We're not doing that.
Right.
I just can't do that.
Yeah.
That's my parent. I cannot do that. So now you having these necessary preparation conversations, plans, put them in writing, seal it if you have to. Even if you, hey, some things that are in this envelope you're not going to be okay with, don't even read it. Seal it, hand this envelope to the medical team, and let the wheel roll, however that looks. The other thing, my dad, again, there's paperwork now, there's properties, there's investments, there's this that needs to be addressed. I have siblings from my dad that we communicate, we talk, we're not on bad terms at all. We have to be on the same page. There has to be a discussion about what's the outcome, what are the objectives. There's a business that's established, that's in place, that everyone needs to have an active role and understanding of what it is, especially if it's going to continue and roll on and be lucrative, and then distributions.
Yeah.
You understand? So now everybody has to have a clear understanding on this side. Now, let's not wait until it's time to move this or decide what do we do with this. Once you have those conversations as far in advance as you can, it takes the elephant out of the room.
Yeah.
And the ego and the self value of, ooh, what can I get that out of the room? Talk to these people now, get these plans in place now. And we're not just going to act like this day is not going to ever come.
Yeah. So that brings up a reference in my family where typically, especially on my dad's side, wasn't a whole lot of conversation about personal matters.
Yes.
Like it was, if you hurt, deal with it. You find out at death what was happening. Like I honestly don't know what my grandmother died of.
Right.
My dad's mom.
Right.
I think it was a combination of some things.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, because we were no longer living in the area, I would only see her maybe once a year sometimes. And then when you have a consistent memory, a consistent experience, and it's not looking like she's going that way.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, it like we're here.
Yes.
And like I don't even recognize who this person is. Do they recognize me? That kind of thing. So I want to be better at communicating and going through what I'm going through now from a health perspective. I have had a family sit down where this is what I'm dealing with. These are my challenges. This is why I've been moving slow. This is why I haven't had the energy. And I apologize for not telling y'all sooner.
Right.
And this was last year. So my kids, they took it well. I could see where it was kind of getting heavy. It looked like it was getting heavy on my son.
Yeah.
So I did my oldest son. I didn't, my youngest son, he was passed out that day.
Yeah.
He couldn't hang. But the importance of having those conversations, like even choice of burial. Like I can't imagine finding out at death that somebody wants to be cremated. My dad has made it. It was almost like we didn't want to hear him say it so much when we were younger.
Right.
So he said, "I just want you to spread me out in the ocean."
Yeah.
We thought he was being like kind of just. We could tell he was serious, but it was like, okay, enough. But then as we started to see people in the family go, and what their choice or lack of choice was,
yes,
because that becomes a big deal, and not to make it a financial thing, but on top of the emotions, to actually bury somebody in a way that you may perceive honors them, you might not be prepared for that.
Correct.
I did some work for Mansfield Funeral Home. Shout out to Christy K, owner and operator of Mansfield Funeral Home, and I think they have another location in Frisco, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But just being around the environment and hearing them talk the stories, or if a client was coming in, or they were they were having an appreciation event, and people that were clients of theirs were doing testimonials.
Yes.
So as I'm filming it, I'm listening to like, I never thought of that. I never considered if this would be an issue, right, or, like what, do you want a cremation? Do you want a burial? Like what kind of service do you, like all of those, the casket type, and being prepared for all of that is overwhelming. And that's what the people were saying was they were highlighting her because she made it so easy at that point, but it was also because the planning solution started before the actual final event.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? So
yes,
it opened my eyes to, though admittedly, I still think that it's too early for me to start talking about plot insurance, but It's so not.
It's not.
It's so not.
It's so not. Because you to say something is too early or too late, it implicates I have a map.
Yeah.
I know the time frame and the timeline. I do not.
Yeah.
It could be tomorrow. God forbid, but it could be tomorrow. I feel like another responsibility as parents, we just don't have conversations enough about grief. That's a real thing. How do you deal with grief? What does grief look like to you? You're blessed enough to have a life where you don't face grief. Nothing happened, nothing tragic. God bless. That's amazing. However, the shock of when it does hit, imagine if it's a close hit.
Yeah.
And now this child, I don't care if they're 22 years old, this child has never dealt with such a loss. What do? You have no idea what that looks like. You haven't had conversations about this is a norm of life. This is a reality. There's a such thing as giving yourself the right to grieve. Some people feel like I have to be strong. I'm supposed to be strong and suppress this and hold this in and do the business and take care of the business. That's too far extreme, but also shutting down to a point where all I can do is sit and scream for days and days and days, and I can't function. I'm not eating. Where now you're deteriorating. That's the other extreme. So go ahead, please.
Be clear, we're not passing judgment on either extreme. I just want to be clear. Yeah, so I'm sorry.
Just no, that was needed. But the importance of having the conversation could perhaps just give some type of perspective that in those moments they have something to lean on.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing that the approach with spirituality is as parents, we create a foundation. Like, let me put some seeds in there in the moment of life. That's where the watering comes in. Now, when you're seeking, like, how do I get out of this? How do I deal with this? Hopefully there's been enough conversation where we've implanted something where they have something to reach and grasp and pull that out. Like, okay, we talked about this. My version of this looks like this. At least I know I have some type of a plan, or at least put a plan together. Whatever the level of conversation you've had, try to steer them in a way where there's a level of functionality that still needs to be maintained.
Yeah.
For the sake of my good. Like, I have to make sure I'm still going to be here after this.
Yeah.
I'm here, and I have to make sure that I'm doing things that will keep me here. Budget. Talk about a budget. If services, there are some entities out here that are in that industry, and it's not a hobby, it's a business. So when you walk in and the grief says, here's the insurance policy, we don't know what to do. That entity is going to say, yeah, I got it from here. If there's $100,000 available for that, if they can get that to 99.999, they will. I'm not shading the industry, but there are those that are out there. So now if I've set up a certain policy or nest egg for me to be a certain way for my family, don't blow that on getting me out of here.
Yeah.
I don't need to be lowered in by a helicopter. Put that in writing. Yeah. Have these conversations up front. I did this so that life goes on for you, for my lineage, for my legacy, grandchildren, children, compounds, whatever you have going on. This isn't to show that I need to leave here like I'm a 4-time war hero. Thank you for the reverence and the thought, but please don't do that, because now you're actually dishonor me personally. Yeah. I'm not criticizing those that do it. Please don't take it as such. Don't dishonor me by I scraped and scraped and scraped and did what I could do to make sure that when I'm not here, I'm still providing in a way the best I could. And you basically poured in the hole with me. Don't do that, please.
Man, what you said about grief, I heard everything else you said, but I got stuck there because honestly, I don't know how to grieve. And I made the reference about the conversation that my dad had on here when he flew home from Vietnam to bury his dad and went right back. I asked him, did you grieve? He said, I don't think so. And this was 50 years after the event that happened. My dad would be 76, 77 this year. Yeah. So, I mean, this is relatively recent. I think he was 74 at the time that we had the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know how to. My dealing with death is like disassociating, not neglecting to acknowledge that it happened,
Right.
but a lot of times I don't know where to go to get the feeling of whatever that's supposed to be.
Right.
And I know I got that from my father. Like I would watch my dad at funerals. He was an elder at the church, and when people in the family died, he almost was able to get up there smiling, making in a not in a disrespectful manner, but making it like they say a homegoing service is the funeral is not for the deceased.
Right.
It's to honor them, but encourage those that are living.
Yes.
And that's what I'll say about that. But it was almost like he had that gift of, or that's what his faith in God was, that how they died, you know, whether they'll see God in peace or not. Like it was always there, but I never really saw him like hurt because somebody died.
Right. Right. Right.
He had to feel it. Like
Right.
I said, he's lost his dad, he lost his mom, he's lost two of his younger sisters, and a number of other, aunts and uncles and things like that. But I, I can't, like today, I can't advise my children on how to feel about it.
Right.
And that maybe I need some counseling or some conversations to kind of help process that. But guess what I'm going, I don't want that for them.
Right.
Not that I want them, we talked about what you define as the extremes. Not that I want them one or the other, but I want them to be able to feel and process that, and not think that they got to be some kind of way because they saw their dad some kind of that way.
Believe it or not, on that note, believe it or not, the conversation with your children could possibly be that very counseling that you're speaking of. I have the same issue. I had so many heavy losses so early in life that I feel like once I was an adult, I started to make up my own rationale for it. Oh, I'm desensitized, or it don't affect me that way. I've seen too much. I lost my brother at 10. That was with me every day of my entire life. So at 10, that was the most traumatic loss I had ever experienced. Years later, the next loss that bothered me that way was my mom. So now after that, I've convinced myself, because I felt guilty. I'm not going to lie about that. I felt guilty when I go to services and I'm just not broke down and falling in the corner about it. It's not a happy time by no means, but like you said, to your dad's credit, I'm able to go up front and talk and speak on the happy moments of this person's life, and maybe lighten the mood a little bit. So there may be some chuckles across the room where it's like, listen, let's not condemn the accomplishments of this person's life. Let's actually honor the fact that we were able and blessed enough to get to know them and be in their lives and them in ours. However, it's not disrespectfully or distastefully laughing and joking or poking fun at anything. So by no means, however, to have those conversations with your children, the blessing that you have is you don't have a predetermined outcome. Like, I'm going to tell you how to grieve. Let's have this conversation so I can tell you how to deal with this. That's not what that conversation should be anyway. It's let's talk about grief, like losses or loved ones, friends, family, no longer being here in life. How do y'all feel about that? That could be the segue. I got nothing, but at least now I put it on the table. Yeah. Let me see what these young minds have for me. And you would be surprised. We could possibly learn how to grieve from our children's perspective and give us some insight that we didn't have or we haven't been able to deal with. Like I'm looking for, especially Brain. Brain may unpack.
Let's just ask him. Let's just bring him on here. Yeah, and ask him. Year for year, stage for stage of life, my children are light years ahead of me in terms of emotional intelligence.
Yes.
And I credit that to my wife. Mm-hmm. My wife is the I hate saying I'm balanced. You know how I feel about saying balance, but the perspective that gives them that gives them a more objective view of life.
Yep.
Because if you look at life like your daddy, there's already one of me, and I'm probably half of what my dad was in terms of, you know, just how we look at life.
Right.
So I like that she allows them to feel like and it's not about I don't allow them to feel. It's not natural for me to emote because you're crying, I'm crying.
What we gonna accomplish with that?
Yeah, you see that we already about to go out the window with that. Like, yeah. I will say. I'm getting better. Eden, my youngest daughter, that I always reference when I'm talking about people pleasing. She had an opportunity to. It wasn't necessarily a vocal. She's in choir. It wasn't necessarily a vocal competition, but selected people in the choir were provided an opportunity to go perform for a judge and get evaluated.
Yes.
Like outside of the school. So this past Saturday was the event.
Yeah.
And the first part of the challenge was on Friday was the last day to pay them because you had to pay like a fee to enter.
Right.
The money was due and she was going to school. I thought Keisha had taken care of it, but I didn't realize it was a thing you had to pay cash.
Oh.
She paid for Eli's field trip and I thought it was like all one thing when she took care of it.
Yes.
So she goes to school and was like, I need this money. And I didn't have any cash on me.
Yeah.
So I dropped off at school, ran around, got some cash and went back and paid it. She had to come to the office. So she was relieved. So I was like, okay, cool. We can still do it. Saturday morning, we get up to go to the competition. And what she remembered of the place was not the right place. We went to the PAC where they have graduation. I think graduation be that this year was where it was last year. And we got there and there was an event, but it wasn't that. So we were there early. I think her call time was like 10:05 or 10:06. We got there like 9:55. We get to the line and nobody knows what we're talking about. And I could see her start breaking down. And I texted Keisha and she put up the email. It was at another school in South Point, newer neighborhood off of I can't even think of the name of the road. Like going toward the studio. The neighborhood you cut through when we go to the studio.
Yep.
It's back there. Anna Martinez or something like that.
Performing art school. So
we're driving to it. Out the corner of my eye, I can see her. She's wiping. Yeah. I know where this is going. I'm like, because that's not my normal.
Yeah.
I don't have the canned speech of, you know what I'm saying? And she's like, I think we're going to miss our time. Because the other thing is she knows this, whatever. Yeah. So I put the directions in because I didn't know exactly what the school was. She keeps looking up. She's like, my call time, we're going to miss our time. I said, you know what? We're just going to try.
Yeah.
Before we get to the school and I'll go to the entrance and on the entrance side, nobody's there. I'm like, did we get another piece of bad information?
Yeah.
It's around the back of the school, but it's like a bunch of one-way ins to actually get there. So I'm looping.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I just drove the wrong way down the street to get into the school. So we go in and I say, hey, talk to the registration people. I say, hey, I goofed. I took it to the wrong spot. Is there any chance that she can actually get in? They're like, yeah, we'll work it out. As a matter of fact, we got a spot at 10:30. It's 10:25.
Yeah.
We got a spot at 10:30. I'm like, see, cool. They wouldn't let me go in there with her. So I just looked at her. I said, hey, deep breath. She goes in. 5 minutes later, she comes out and she has a little medal on. And she's like, I got a 1. I'm like,
yeah, no.
Yeah. She's like, the 1 is the best you could do. And then I thought back to Imani being in choir. I was like, yeah, if you get a performance, if you get a 1, that's the absolute best you can do.
Man.
So it worked out, went from to what was a grieving thing for her because she was really excited about this thing. And it taught me a lesson of, you know, and I'm giving her the speech after, really talking to myself. I'm like, you know, sometimes we just got to keep a good attitude and keep going.
Yeah.
I'm like, look at me all the days I sat and sulked, you know, in this thing. But you know, it's really a struggle for me. And I know there'll be no shortage of those opportunities as they go through life and things that, like we always talk about, making light of things that are meaningful to them.
Yes.
Because we've already
been through it.
Come on up the mountain kind of thing.
Yeah. That's amazing. And those are the moments, like I say, again, no shots at anybody, but I truly thank God for me being a parent. I'm a totally different person.
Yeah.
Uh, I get to see myself. I get to see my flaws. I get to see life in a mode of reality.
Yeah.
They have such a pure spirit, man. Children, they take things at face value. It is what it is. You tell me you're going to do something and you don't do it, that's a problem. If I have an expectation of something being a certain way and it doesn't align with my expectation, it crashes them out.
Yeah.
They genuinely have true feelings to where we've over the years we've deadened those areas. We've turned the switch off. We don't want to be reminded of, hey, that don't make me feel so comfortable, so I don't even want to see it. I don't want to hear it. So now we're trying to structure our lives in a way where we're not experiencing the whole spectrum of emotions, not realizing the rain makes us appreciate the sunny days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So now because something is sad or disappointing, perhaps that's what motivates me to, man, I got to double down.
Yeah.
I'd never want to allow myself to feel like that again. That's good until we start to do things to block even being exposed to it at all. So we forget the motivation of it, the lessons that exist over there in that dark side of the corner. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's amazing that worked out for her, because now, like you said, moving forward, she's going to always have the spirit of, let's just go see.
Yeah.
Let's see how this finna turn out.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
As we start to land the plane, man, I don't want to blow past this conversation and not kind of have a transparent, not that it was short of any transparent moments, but just, dear son, this, and this when I'm gone. What are some things that some areas that maybe because of this conversation, before this conversation, that you gotta need some work with your son taking on leading the family or whatever it is, dealing with life.
Stay engaged. I continuously, and this is a call to action to me. I just heard it in my semester. This semester at school, I had 4 classes where I was in groups in all 4 of them. So we were doing group projects, and every group had the same comment at the end, not negatively. They just said that we learned a valuable lesson in making time for things that are important. And they used me as an example in each group. They were like, James is the busiest person I've ever seen in my entire life.
Facts.
And so again, I've heard that from you, my 4 groups at school, friends, family, business, my organization that I'm a part of. They're like, listen, this is the busiest man on planet Earth. And I'm like, am I that busy?
Yeah.
And so as I look at what cost, I told you that's my saying. My phrase of 2025 is at what cost. I just reached out. I have not to get too long-winded about it, but I have a group of brothers, friends that I grew up with. At what cost? I'm very busy and active in the workforce and in this and this and this and this. You have to ask yourself, what are you sacrificing though? Relationships. I haven't been taking enough time to check in with those that truly matter. True friendships, true brotherhoods of shut it down. Yes, I'm busy, but this or this. If life as we know it changes tomorrow and the economy shuts down to zero, to where there's no more work, or the COVID,
yeah,
where everyone was stuck in the house and you were forced to lean on your social skills and what can we provide or help each other with? Are you putting too much energy into areas that won't truly benefit you in life itself?
Ooh.
I want my children to check more into that. Don't get caught up in the rat race of, I got to obtain, I got to do this, I have to provide, I have to get this money, I got to get this career, I got to get this education. Those things are very important. But perspective is everything.
Yeah.
There's God, there's your family, and friends and family is interchangeable because close enough friends that is your
Yeah.
family. God, family, the world. So at that point, don't get caught up putting the world ahead of your friends and family, and certainly don't put it ahead of God. If I can get confirmation that my children not only understand that, but live it, manifest it, and believe it,
Yeah.
I'm satisfied. Because those are the relationships, those are the tangibles and intangibles that truly will, at the end of life, you can look back and say, job well done, my life was fulfilled.
Yeah. Man, for me, having the benefit of how you laid yours out, I would have to say that there's two categories of paramount importance. So spiritually, I want all of my children, branding it as dear son,
Yes,
to desire a relationship with God directly.
yes.
My faith ain't gonna get you there. Grandma and Pop, Grandma Gina, Pop, all your grandparents' faith ain't gonna get you there. And I say that because that's how I lived a lot of my life up until I had a family. It started to set in, but only in the last 5 to 7 years has it been like, wait, I'm really need to be the spiritual leader.
Right.
I can't even lead me right now spiritually. So what am I doing? Because I think that is the, and I hate to say I'll say this way, when all else fails, that is the surest thing. I don't want him to wait for all else to fail to shore up that relationship.
Right.
I want to be there and available to him. So as they're going through their storms, they have some surety about life. The other piece of it is, man, I want my children to be way more financially responsible than me. Earlier, longer. And I really want them to understand it, not just mimic something that somebody tells them.
Yeah.
Whether it's me or anybody else, I really want them to understand, like, the cost of life. I know today my children have no concept. I shouldn't say no concept, but not as in depth of an understanding of what it takes to live just as you live today.
Right.
Whether you want to live above or below that, that's on you. And then having a grandchild, it really kind of accelerated that. So them having a relationship with God on the spiritual category, and depending on God. We all have, I shouldn't say we all. I know what it was to go through the phase where because things weren't going wrong, I thought less of my need to even say hello to God, let alone depend on him. So I don't want them to have to experience those just to get it.
Yeah.
Just to get it.
Yeah.
I think I hope this was helpful for some. It was definitely helpful for me talking through it, leaving with some action items.
Yeah.
Some conversations that need to be had, conversations that need to continue. And I'm also thinking, I'm going to reach out to Christy K to see if she will come on, because I think I don't know, it doesn't even matter what I think about who will resonate with, but I want to make sure that the platform provides, like, holistically lessons for dear son, which every man is a son.
Yes.
And planning for death is a conversation that I've heard a number of people in our community talk about. We just don't do it enough. So to have somebody educated that can talk about the process, I think that makes sense.
I agree.
And also have a counselor that's committed. Family, I don't know if she's married and family counseling, but she is a licensed counselor in the DFW area, and she has some things that she wanted to talk to us about.
Really?
Yeah. So it'll be trying to make sure that we always bring in value beyond our opinion, because our opinions are the best in the land. Like the president says, it's not an opinion better than ours. He just had his first 100-day performance. I didn't even watch it.
Performance.
Because he can't say that there's no way that he failed in his mind, and that's
no humility there.
Sometimes that's a beautiful way to live. You won't find a conversation better than ours. I promise you. And if you do, it wasn't.
It was not.
Even if it was not.
Yeah.
So,
Delusional.
what you the Lulu? What you got in closing, brother?
That's it, man. Just be intentional. Be focused.
Yeah.
Be dedicated.
Yep.
Lock in.
Yes, sir.
Lock in.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna. I have my book handy. I'm not gonna bring it up again, but lovekeishaj.com for my wife's book. If you're watching, there's an overlay. If you're listening and watching, there's a link below. But Chocolate Princess Volume 1, book for young scholars of color, your young ladies, 5 to 15.
Yes.
I can't speak enough about it, and I won't shut up about it until they sold out. Then we'll order some more, and that's all out.
That's it.
Big shout out to her. Again, I try to keep myself accountable by committing to bring her home this year, because she needs to be home. Other than that, we appreciate you guys. God bless you. Peace.